The lights flickered in the control room of Proximus 4 Outpost as Lieutenant Susan Rogers stared at the message on her screen. Her hands trembled slightly. This was the third colony to go dark this week. First New Eden, then Harmony Station, and now Elysium. All gone silent within days of each other. Lieutenant, you should see this. Communications Officer Olivia Jackson's voice was tight with worry. She pushed her brown hair back from her face and pointed at her monitor. Susan moved. Across the room, her boots echoing on the metal floor. The outpost was small, just 25 humans stationed at the edge of council space. They were scientists mostly, sent to study alien cultures and report back. That was 75 years ago. Contact with Earth had been lost shortly after their arrival. The Galactic Council told them Earth had destroyed itself in war, and the expedition members had no choice but to believe them. Susan looked at the screen. It showed a grainy video feed from a security camera on Elysium. Dark shapes moved through the colony streets. They were tall, at least 8 feet, with multiple limbs and carapaces that glinted in the colony lights. They moved with purpose. Surrounding buildings where colonists tried to hide. Vorax, Susan whispered. The name was spoken like a curse among council species. The Vorax were a hive-mind race, predatory and relentless. Until now, they had kept to the outer rim of the galaxy. They're not just attacking, Olivia said. They're hunting. A footage showed the creatures breaking into homes, dragging out colonists. Some were killed immediately. Others were taken away. The feed cut to static. How many people lived on Elysium? Susan asked. 80,000. Captain William Grant entered the control room. At 58, he was the oldest human on the outpost, with gray streaking his once black hair. He had been only 20 when the expedition left Earth. I just finished speaking with the council, he said. His face was grim. They're refusing to send ships. Dr. Eric Miller looked up from his workstation. Refusing? But there are millions of lives at risk. The Council claims military action goes against their core principles, Williams said. They're sending diplomatic envoys to negotiate. Negotiate with the Vorax? Susan couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. The Vorax don't negotiate. Every species knows that. They suggested we evacuate, Williams said. Move deeper into council space. Olivia shook her head. The Vorax are hitting colonies faster than we can evacuate them. We need fighters, not diplomats. The room fell silent. Humans had been living under council rules for generations now. They had adapted to the peaceful ways of the galactic community. But in this moment, Susan felt something stirring in her blood, something old. What if we contacted Earth? She suggested. William looked at her sharply. Earth is gone. The council confirmed it. Did they? Eric asked. Did they ever show us proof? Or did they just tell us that to keep us dependent on them? The question hung in the air. It wasn't the first time they had wondered about the truth of Earth's fate. Even if Earth still exists. William said carefully, the council blocked all communication channels in that direction decades ago. They said it was to prevent harmful influences from reaching us. Olivia straightened in her chair. I might be able to get around that. When everyone looked at her, she continued, there's an old frequency we used in the early days, before the council integrated our systems with theirs. I've been maintaining it, just in case. That would violate council law, William warned. So does standing by while millions die, Susan replied. William looked at each of them. His duty as captain warred with his duty as a human being. Finally, he nodded. Do it, but keep it quiet. Olivia's fingers flew over her console. The signal will be weak. It might not reach Earth at all, and even if it does, there's no guarantee anyone is listening on those old frequencies. Send it anyway. William ordered. What's the worst that can happen? We're already watching colonies die. Olivia crafted a simple message. This is the human outpost Proximus 4. Multiple colonies under attack. Civilian casualties in the millions. We need help. Anyone from Earth receiving this, please respond. The message shot out into space, racing. Through the stars toward a home none of them had seen in their lifetime. 3 days later, the Vorax attacked New Terra, a colony of 500,000. The Council continued to debate what should be done. No help came. A week passed. Susan was monitoring deep space communications when she detected an unusual signal. It was faint, barely there, but it was aimed directly at their outpost. Olivia, she called. I'm picking up something strange. Olivia came over, frowning as she looked at the readings. That's not a Council transmission pattern. She adjusted the receiver, cleaning up the signal. A voice emerged from static. Proximus 4. This is Admiral Frank Morrison of the United Earth Defense Force. We received your distress call. Please confirm your situation. The control room went completely silent. Earth had survived. Earth had heard them. William moved to the communication station with a speed that belied his age. This is Captain William Grant of the Human. Outpost on Proximus 4. We confirm our situation is critical. Multiple human colonies are under attack by a species known as the Vorax. The Galactic Council is refusing military intervention. There was a pause, then the voice returned, clearer now. Captain Grant, please stand by. We are coming to assist. The Earth fleet has been dispatched to your coordinates. Earth fleet? Eric repeated, his eyes wide. Earth has a fleet? William keyed the come again. Admiral, the Galactic Council has strict regulations against military vessels in their space. The Admiral's laugh came through the speakers, a sound that sent shivers down Susan's spine. It was the laugh of someone who did not fear the Council's rules. Captain, Earth is not part of the Galactic Council. We never were. We'll be there in 2 weeks. Hold out until then. The signal faded. William turned to his crew, who stared at him in shock. It seems, he said slowly, that the Council hasn't been entirely truthful with us. Susan looked out the viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, ships from Earth were coming. Ships with weapons. Ships with soldiers. For the first time since the Vorax attacks began, she felt hope. We should warn the Council. Carrick suggested. William shook his head. Not yet. Let's see what Earth has to say first. As if in answer to his words, alarms began to sound throughout the outpost. Susan rushed to her station. Vorax ships, she reported, her voice steady despite her fear. 3 of them, approaching fast. William's face hardened. Seal all sections. Prepare for possible boarding. Olivia sent a quick update to Earth, then locked down her station. If they take the outpost, they'll find out we contacted Earth. Then we make sure they don't take the outpost, William said. He opened a weapons locker that had remained sealed for decades. Inside were phasers that had not been used since the expedition first landed. As he handed them out, Susan couldn't help but wonder what Earth was like now. What kind of fleet they had. What kind of weapons. 2 weeks, she said to herself as she checked her phaser. We just need to survive 2 weeks. Outside, the Vorax ships entered orbit around Proximus 4, their dark hulls blotting out the stars. Hunt had come to their doorstep, but this time the prey had called for help, and the Deathworlders were coming. Admiral Frank Morrison stood on the bridge of the flagship Terran Defender, his weathered face reflected in the viewport as he stared at the stars. He was 63 years old, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. His blue uniform bore the insignia of the United Earth Defense Force, a planet with a shield. Signal confirmed, Admiral, said Communications Chief Peter Walsh. The message definitely came from Proximus 4. We've tracked their coordinates. Frank nodded. And the status of the fleet? All 50 ships ready and awaiting your command. 50 warships, the largest fleet Earth had ever sent beyond the solar system. Each vessel bristled with weapons that would have been unimaginable when the lost expedition left Earth 75 years ago. "Admiral, President Powell is requesting to speak with you," Peter said. A moment later, the view screen showed President Diane Powell from her office in New Washington. She was in her early 50s, with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral, the Security Council has finished its emergency session," she said. "Your mission has full authorization. Rescue our people and assess the threat these Vorax pose to Earth." "And the Galactic Council?" Frank asked. Diane's expression hardened. "For 75 years, they've lied to our people, told them Earth was destroyed. They kept us isolated, denied us access to the galactic community. We owe them nothing." Frank nodded. That much was true. 20 years ago, Earth had captured an alien scout ship that had strayed into the solar system. From its databases, they learned the truth that the Galactic Council had deliberately quarantined Earth, deeming humans too violent and unpredictable for membership. "But they aren't our primary concern," Diane continued. "These Vorax are. If they're as dangerous as the message suggests, they could eventually threaten Earth." "We'll handle them," Frank assured her. Chief Engineer Lisa Bennett entered the bridge. She was 40, with red hair tied back in a practical ponytail, and the brightest mind in propulsion technology Earth had ever produced. "The new drives are ready, Admiral," she reported. "We can reach Proximus 4 in 12 days. What's the status of the weapon systems?" Frank asked. "Everything is operational. The plasma cannons, railguns, and missile systems are all at full capacity." Colonel Alan Carter, the fleet's strategist, joined them. He carried a data pad with preliminary battle plans. "We know almost nothing about these Vorax," he said. "But if they're attacking civilian colonies, they aren't expecting serious resistance." "Let's hope our surprise works in our favor," Frank replied. The Admiral turned to address the bridge crew. "Our mission is clear. We rescue our people and stop this threat. Humanity has been absent from the galactic stage for too long. It's time we made our return known." He gave the order, and across the fleet, engines flared to life. 50 warships jumped into hyperspace, leaving the solar system behind. Back on Proximus 4, the situation had grown desperate. The Vorax ships remained in orbit, sending down small groups of hunters rather than launching a full invasion. It was a siege tactic, wearing down the humans' resources and morale. Susan ducked behind a barricade as energy blasts hit the wall behind her. 3 Vorax had breached the eastern section of the outpost. Close up, they were even more terrifying tall, insectoid creatures with multiple arms ending in claws or weapons. Their carapaces were dark blue, almost black, with bioluminescent patches that pulsed as they communicated with each other. William fired his phaser, catching one Vorax in what passed for its chest. The creature stumbled but didn't fall. "Aim for the light patches," Eric called from his position. "That's where their neural clusters are." Susan adjusted her aim and fired at a glowing blue spot on the nearest Vorax's neck. The creature collapsed. Instantly, William targeted the same spots on the other 2, and soon all 3 hunters were down. "We can't keep this up," Olivia said, helping Eric seal the breach in the eastern door. "That's the 3rd attack today. We just need to hold out for 10 more days," Susan reminded them. "Earth is coming." "If we're still here," William muttered. They dragged the Vorax bodies to the lab, where Eric had been studying them. Each attack gave them more information about their enemy, but at a terrible cost. 5 of their 25 crew were already dead. "Their biology is fascinating," Eric said as he examined the newest specimens. "They're a true hive mind, linked through bioelectric signals. These aren't individual creatures. They're extensions of a single consciousness. How does that help us? William asked. It means they don't fear death the way we do. Each of these is like a finger or an eye to the main body. Useful, but ultimately expendable. Susan frowned. So what would they fear? Isolation, Eric suggested. Cutting off parts of the hive from the main consciousness would be like severing a limb. A sudden alarm blared through the outpost. Council ship approaching, Olivia called from her station. It's the Harmony Seeker Ambassador Zixtal's vessel. William sighed. Perfect timing. Let's hope they can at least evacuate some of our people. The sleek council ship docked at the outpost's main airlock. Ambassador Zixtal entered with 2 aides. The ambassador was a Linaria slender, pale being with 4 arms and large, sensitive eyes adapted for their dim homeworld. Captain Grant, Zixtal said in the soft voice typical of their species, the council has been informed of your situation. We have come to negotiate with the Vorax. William struggled to keep his frustration in check. Ambassador, the Vorax have already killed 5 of my crew. They don't want to negotiate. Violence is never the answer, Captain, Zixtal replied. All species can be reasoned with. Susan stepped forward. With all due respect, Ambassador, have you ever successfully negotiated with the Vorax before? The ambassador hesitated. Well, no. But the council believes. An explosion rocked the outpost, cutting off the ambassador's words. Alarm screamed through every corridor. Hull breach. In Section 7, Olivia shouted over the noise. Multiple Vorax entering. Zixtal's large eyes widened in fear. This was not the plan. We sent them a peace proposal before landing. Get to the safe room, William ordered, pushing the ambassador and aides toward the inner chambers. Susan, Olivia, with me. Eric, Seal. The lab. As they rushed to respond to the breach, Susan wondered if Earth's fleet would find anything left to save when they arrived. She pushed the thought away. They had to survive. They had to hold out. Somewhere in the vastness of space, 50 warships were racing toward them, crewed by humans who had never forgotten how to fight. Humans from a world the Galactic Council had feared enough to isolate Dot. Now Susan understood why. And for the first time, she was glad of it. 5 days had passed since the Council ship arrived. The Vorax attacks had grown more frequent and more coordinated. Half the outpost was now sealed off, either damaged beyond use or overrun by the enemy. The remaining humans and their council. Visitors were trapped in the central hub. Surrounded on all sides, Susan wiped sweat from her forehead as she checked the power levels on their last working generator. The lights dimmed briefly, then stabilized. How long? William asked, his voice low so the council members couldn't hear. 3 days, maybe 4 if we shut down everything except life support, Susan replied. William nodded grimly. Earth was still. 7 days away. They wouldn't make it Dot in the medical bay. Eric tended to the wounded with their dwindling supplies. 3 more crew members had died in the last attack. That left 17 humans, plus Ambassador Zixtal and the 2 Linari. Aides. Olivia approached, holding a small device. I modified our short-range communicator, she whispered. We can listen to the Vorax signals now. They're still mostly static, but I'm picking up patterns. Can you understand what they're saying? William asked. Not words exactly. It's more. Like ... emotions. Feelings. They're excited. Hungry. She hesitated. And they know more of their kind are coming. Ambassador Zixtal drifted over, moving with the fluid grace of the Linari. Captain, I must insist again that you allow me to attempt communication with the Vorax. The Council protocols have failed, William cut in. Ambassador, with all due respect, your ship was destroyed an hour after you docked. Your transmission only made them attack harder. The ambassador's pale skin flushed slightly. "Violence begets violence, Captain. Perhaps if we offered." An explosion rocked the hub, cutting off the ambassador's words. Alarms blared. "They've breached the main airlock." Susan shouted, grabbing her weapon. William positioned his remaining crew at defensive points around the hub. "Everyone stay back. Aim for their light patches." The doors to the hub buckled inward as something massive slammed against them from the other side. The metal groaned under the strain. "That's not like the other attacks," Eric said, his eyes wide. "They've been testing our defenses, looking for weaknesses. Now they're committing to a full assault." The doors burst open. What entered wasn't the usual Vorax hunters. This one was larger, nearly 10 feet tall, with a carapace so dark it seemed to absorb light. The bioluminescent patches glowed brighter, pulsing rapidly. "Commander," Olivia whispered. "That's a commander." Behind it poured dozens of regular Vorax warriors, more than they had ever seen at once. The humans opened fire immediately. 2 Vorax fell, then 3, but there were too many. They swarmed into the hub from all sides. Ambassador Zixtal stepped forward, arms raised in the council gesture of peace. "We seek dialogue." "We?" The Vorax commander seized the ambassador with lightning speed, lifting the slender alien off the floor. Zixtal's scream cut off as the Vorax snapped the ambassador's neck with casual ease, then tossed the body aside. The Lenari aides shrieked in horror. One tried to run, but was cut down immediately. The other froze in shock. Susan fired repeatedly at the commander, aiming for its light patches, but its carapace was thicker than the others. Her shots barely penetrated. William grabbed her arm. "Fall back to the emergency pods," he shouted over the chaos. "Everyone, fall back." They retreated down the corridor toward the last functioning escape pods, firing as they went. Eric helped. The remaining Lenari aide, who seemed paralyzed with fear. 5 pods left, Olivia called out. 4 people per pod. "Get in," William ordered. "Susan, take the first pod with Eric, Olivia, and the aide." Susan hesitated. "What about you?" William checked his weapon. "I'll hold them off, give you time." "To launch." "No," Susan protested. "We go together or not at all." A terrible screech echoed down the corridor. The Varax were coming. "That's an order, Lieutenant," William said firmly. "Earth needs to know what happened here. Someone has to tell them." Before Susan could argue further, the wall beside them exploded inward. The force threw them all to the ground. Susan's ears rang from the blast. Through the smoke, she saw massive shapes entering more Vorax. "This is it," she thought. "We failed." Then she heard something else. A new sound cutting through the chaos. A rhythmic thudding, like heavy footsteps, but too regular to be Vorax. Through the hole in the wall stepped a figure in black armor, taller than a human, but shorter. And a Vorax. The helmet had a reflective visor that concealed the face. In its hands was a weapon unlike anything Susan had seen before, sleek, deadly, and humming with power. Behind this figure came more, a dozen armored soldiers moving with practiced precision. The Vorax turned to face this new threat. The commander screeched, a sound that made Susan's blood run cold. The lead armored figure raised its weapon and fired. A stream of superheated plasma hit the Vorax commander directly in its center mass. The creature's carapace didn't just break it. Exploded, sending fragments flying. The other soldiers opened fire, cutting down Vorax with terrifying efficiency. Unlike the humans' phasers, these weapons tore through the alien carapaces like paper. Within seconds, every Vorax in the corridor was dead. The lead figure approached William, who was struggling to his feet. The helmet retracted, revealing the face of a woman in her 40s, with short blonde hair and eyes that had seen combat. "Captain Grant?" she asked. Major Heather Phillips, United Earth Marines. Looks like we got here just in time. William stared in disbelief. You single quotes read ... from Earth, but you're early. The Admiral said 2 weeks. Heather smiled grimly. When we received your update about the Vorax ships, Admiral Morrison ordered the fleet to push the engines beyond safety limits. We lost 2 ships getting here, but we made it. She looked around at the devastation, though almost too late, it seems. More armored soldiers poured into the outpost, securing the area and checking for survivors. The Earth fleet is engaging. The Vorax ships in orbit, Heather continued. We need to evacuate your people immediately. Susan helped Eric to his feet, while Olivia supported the trembling Lenari aide. What about the Council? William asked. This is their space. They won't approve of military action. Heather's expression hardened. A Council representative is already aboard our flagship, protesting our presence. Admiral Morrison is handling the situation. The way she said it made Susan wonder exactly what handling meant. You have injured, Heather noted. Our medics will treat them on the transport. We need to move quickly. More Vorax reinforcements are inbound to this system. As they made their way through the outpost, now secured by Earth Marines, Susan saw the difference between the Council's approach and Earth's. Where the Council had sent diplomats with words of peace, Earth had sent soldiers with weapons of war. And for the first time in weeks, she felt safe. The transport shuttle docked with the Terran Defender, the massive Earth flagship that dwarfed any Council vessel Susan had ever seen. Through the viewport, she watched Earth fighters engage the Vorax ships. The alien vessels were larger, but moved more slowly. Earth ships darted around them like angry wasps, firing weapons that cut through Vorax hulls with ease. Your first time seeing a real battle? Major Phillips asked, noticing Susan's stare. Susan nodded. The Council banned warfare centuries ago. Most species have forgotten how to fight. Except the Vorax, it seems, Heather replied grimly. The shuttle doors opened. Medical teams rushed in to help the wounded. William was taken to the medical bay with the others, while Susan, Eric, and Olivia were escorted to the bridge. The bridge of the Terran Defender was a marvel of technology, far beyond the outdated equipment at the outpost. Officers moved with purpose between stations, monitoring the battle outside. Admiral Morrison stood at the center, studying a holographic display of the system. He turned as they entered, his weathered face breaking into a slight smile. Lieutenant Rogers, Dr. Miller, Officer Jackson, he said, greeting each by name. Welcome aboard. I'm sorry we couldn't arrive sooner. Before Susan could respond, she noticed another figure on the bridge, a tall, thin alien with green skin and large, compound eyes. It wore the formal robes of a Council High Representative. You must be joking, Admiral, the alien said in the precise tones of the Council's diplomatic corps. These humans have been living under Council protection for generations. They belong in Council space. Protection? Olivia's voice was sharp with anger. Half our people are dead because of your protection. The representative turned to her. Regrettable losses, but violence is never the answer. The Council was preparing a more comprehensive diplomatic approach. While people died, Susan cut in. The Vorax don't want diplomacy. They want food, us. Admiral Morrison raised a hand for quiet. High Representative Keel, your concerns are noted, but Earth will not abandon its people again. He turned to a tactical officer. Status report. Vorax. Fleet at 50% strength and falling, sir, the officer replied. We've lost 3 fighters, with damage to 2 cruisers. The alien reinforcements are still 8 hours out. More than enough time, Morrison said. Continue the attack. I want those ships destroyed, not disabled. High Representative Keel's skin paled to a lighter green. This is an act of war. A council will not. The council is welcome to file a complaint, Morrison interrupted. After we've saved the remaining human colonies. A communications officer approached. Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from 7 other colonies in nearby systems. All under Vorax attack. Morrison nodded as if he'd expected this. Send the coordinates to Colonel Carter. I want battle groups dispatched to each colony immediately. He turned to Susan, Eric, and Olivia. We need to know everything you've learned about the Vorax. Any weaknesses, patterns, behaviors. Eric stepped forward. They're a hive mind, connected through bioelectric signals. Each group is controlled by a commander, like the one at our outpost. Kill the commander, and the regular. Vorax become disorganized. And the commanders report to what? A queen? A central intelligence? Morrison asked. We believe there's a primary hub, Eric explained. Somewhere in the Centauri Nexus, based on their attack patterns. Colonel Carter joined them, his tablet, displaying a map of nearby systems. If we're going to stop them for good, we need to hit that hub. Impossible. Keel exclaimed. The Centauri Nexus is a protected zone under Council law. No military vessels are permitted. Then the Council should have protected it better, Morrison said coldly. Lieutenant Rogers, Dr. Miller, I'd like you to join our planning team. Your knowledge of both the Vorax and Council space will be invaluable. Susan and Eric exchanged glances, then nodded. Officer Jackson, Morrison continued, our communications team could use your expertise. You'll manage to pick up Vorax signals. That could give us an edge. Olivia straightened. Yes, sir. As they moved to their assigned stations, the ship shuddered. Slightly. Outside, the last Vorax vessel in orbit around Proximus 4 exploded into fragments. Target destroyed, reported the weapons officer. Proximus system secure. Good, Morrison said. Prepare for jump to the Centauri Nexus. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Susan worked with Colonel Carter and his team, mapping out Vorax movements across Council space. A pattern emerged. The attacks weren't random. They were systematic, starting from the outer colonies and working inward. They're hunting, Susan realized. Testing defenses, looking for resistance. And finding none, thanks to the Council's pacifism. Carter said in another section of the ship. Eric worked with Earth scientists to develop more effective weapons. Against the Vorax, his knowledge of their biology proved crucial. Their neural clusters are sensitive to specific frequencies, he explained. If we can tune our weapons to target those frequencies, we can disrupt their hive connection. Meanwhile, Olivia had made a breakthrough with the communications team. The Vorax don't just communicate through bioelectric signals, she reported. They use a form of quantum entanglement for long-distance coordination. That's how the commanders stay connected to the hub. Chief Engineer Bennett immediately saw the implications. If we can trace that quantum signal, we can find the hub, Olivia finished. On the bridge, Morrison received these reports with growing confidence. We'll hit them at the Nexus with everything we have, he decided. Cut off the head, and the body dies. High Representative Keel had been watching these preparations with increasing alarm. Admiral, I must formally protest this military action. The Council will not stand for. The Council is welcome to join us, Morrison interrupted. Or they can stay out of our way. Either way, we're going to the Nexus. The ship's engines hummed as they prepared for the jump to hyperspace. Susan returned to the bridge, where Morrison was addressing his officers. This is humanity's return to the galactic stage, he said. For too long, we've been told we're too violent, too unpredictable for the peaceful galaxy the Council wants. But sometimes, peace needs to be defended. He looked around at his crew, and that's what we do best. The view screen showed the Earth fleet regrouping after the battle. 50 ships had arrived at Proximus 4. Now 45 remained, each preparing. to jump to their assigned targets, Susan felt a strange mix of emotions. Pride in Earth's response, sorrow for those lost, and worry about the battles to come. But mostly, she felt something she hadn't experienced in weeks. Hope. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, streaks of light filling the view screen, she knew that, whatever awaited them at the Centauri Nexus, humanity would face it together. The isolated colonies in Earth, reunited at last. And the Vorax were about to learn why the Council had feared humans in the first place. The Centauri Nexus was beautiful in a way that took Susan's breath away. Swirling clouds of blue and purple gases surrounded a cluster of stars, creating natural hyperspace lanes that connected dozens of systems. It was one of the wonders of the galaxy, protected by Council law for centuries. Now it was a battlefield. Susan stood on the bridge of the Terran, defender as the Earth fleet emerged from hyperspace. Ahead of them waited the largest collection of Vorax ships they had yet encountered, at least 100. Vessels of various sizes, all protecting a massive central structure that pulsed with the same bioluminescent light as the Vorax themselves. "Hub," Eric whispered beside her. "It's alive." Admiral Morrison studied the enemy formation, his face revealing nothing. "Battle stations," he ordered calmly. "All ships form up in attack pattern Delta." The Earth fleet spread out in a three-dimensional formation that Susan had never seen before. Ships moved with perfect coordination, taking positions that seemed random until she realized they were positioning for overlapping fields of fire. "Admiral," Olivia called from her station at communications. "We're receiving a transmission from the hub. It's different from the other Vorax signals. More complex." "Put it through," Morrison ordered. What came through the speakers wasn't a voice, but a series of screeches and clicks that made Susan's skin crawl. Beneath the alien sounds was a pattern, almost like language. Eric's eyes widened. "That's the Hive Queen, the central intelligence controlling all the Vorax." "Can we communicate with it?" Morrison asked. "I don't think it wants to communicate," Eric replied. "I think it's warning us to leave. Or die." Morrison nodded as if this confirmed something. "Then we have our answer." He turned to his tactical officer. "Target the hub with all available weapons. Fighter squadrons, engage the defender ships." "Hi?" Representative Keel, who had remained on board despite his protests, stepped forward. "Admiral, I beg you to reconsider. This is an intelligence unlike any we've encountered. The Council would want to study it, understand it. While it devours more colonies?" Morrison shook his head. "I've seen enough, Representative. This entity sees other species as food, nothing more." The Earth fleet surged forward. Fighters, launched from carrier ships, streaking toward the Vorax vessels. Larger Earth ships opened fire with weapons that tore through space plasma beams, railguns firing projectiles at incredible speeds, and missiles that split into multiple warheads. The Vorax responded immediately. Their ships moved to intercept, firing energy weapons that glowed with the same blue light as their bodies. Where the Council's defenses had been ineffective, the Vorax weapons were deadly. 3 Earth ships exploded in the first exchange. "They're stronger here," Susan observed. "Closer to the Queen, closer to the source of their power." "Then we need to cut off that source," Morrison replied. He opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, focus fire on Sector 7. We need to punch through their line." The battle raged, with an intensity Susan had never imagined possible. Earth ships darted and weaved through the Vorax formation, taking damage but dealing more in return. The tactics Colonel Carter had developed based on Susan's information were working. Earth vessels targeted the command ships first, leaving the smaller Vorax vessels disorganized. "We've got an opening," announced the tactical officer. "Path to the hub is clear in Sector 7. "Move us in," Morrison ordered. "Prepare the primary weapon." The Terran defender pushed forward through the gap in the Vorax defenses, taking heavy fire from all sides. The ship shuddered with each impact. "Shields at 40%, reported an officer. "Keep going," Morrison commanded. "Get us within range." On the weapons deck, Chief Engineer Bennett made final adjustments to what the crew had dubbed the Queen Killer, a weapon developed based on Eric's research that would target the specific frequency of the Queen's neural network. Energy levels stable, she reported over the comm. "Ready to fire on your command." The defender pushed closer to the hub, now close enough that they could see the intricate patterns of light flowing across its surface. "Fascinating," Eric murmured. "It's not just a structure, it's an organism. The Queen isn't inside it? The hub is the Queen." Susan looked at the massive structure with new understanding. "Then destroying it ... will end the Vorax threat," Morrison finished, "at least in this sector of space." He gave the order, "Fire primary weapon." A beam of concentrated energy, tuned to the exact frequency Eric had identified, shot from the Jianku defender toward the hub. Where it struck, the bioluminescent patterns faltered, then began to dim. The effect spread across the hub's surface like a wave. The lights flickered, pulsed erratically, then began to fade. "It's working," Olivia said, monitoring the Vorax communications. "Their network is collapsing." Throughout the battlefield, Vorax ships suddenly lost coordination. Some drifted aimlessly, while others began firing randomly, or even at each other. "The hive mind is breaking down," Eric explained. "Without the Queen's guidance, they can't function as a collective." Morrison didn't waste the opportunity. "All ships press the advantage. Destroy any Vorax vessel still capable of flight." The Earth fleet surged forward, picking off the confused Vorax ships one by one. Within an hour, the battle was over. The hub drifted lifeless in space, its lights completely dark. Around it floated the debris of destroyed Vorax vessels. Earth had won, but at a cost. 17 ships lost, hundreds of crew members dead or wounded. Yet compared to what might have happened had the Vorax continued their advance, it was a small price to pay. 2 days later, a council delegation arrived at the Centauri Nexus. Not just representatives this time, but the High Council itself, led by Supreme Counselor Valen. Their ships approached the Earth fleet cautiously. On the bridge of the Defender, Morrison, Susan, William, Eric, and Olivia prepared to meet with the council leaders. "They won't be happy," William warned. "We violated dozens of council laws and saved millions of lives," Susan added. When the council members boarded the Defender, tension filled the air. Supreme Counselor Valen, a tall being with crystalline features, regarded Admiral Morrison with an unreadable expression. "Admiral," Valen began formally, "the council has reviewed the events of the past weeks. Your intervention was ... unauthorized." Morrison stood firm and necessary. "Yes," Valen admitted, surprising everyone. "It was. The council has existed for 10,000 years on principles of peace and cooperation. But we have forgotten that sometimes peace must be defended." The Supreme Counselor turned to Susan and the other outpost survivors. "Your people reminded us of this truth. Though we may not approve of your methods, we cannot deny your results." "What happens now?" Susan asked. "Earth has demonstrated its power," Valen said. "The council must adapt. We propose a new arrangement, Earth. We'll be invited to join the Galactic Council with a special mandate to establish a defense force for all council worlds." Morrison exchanged glances with his officers. "Earth has been isolated for 75 years. Why would we join now?" "Because the galaxy needs you," Valen replied simply. "The Vorax are just one threat among many in the darkness between stars. We have maintained peace, but you know how to fight for it." Susan looked out at the stars visible through the viewport. After all the death and destruction, a new beginning was possible. Earth would return to the galactic community, not as the foe, violent primitives the Council had feared, but as protectors. The Deathworlders had answered the call, and the galaxy would never be the same.